Good morning, kids. Welcome to Online Church. I'm so glad that you could join us this morning. It's hard to believe that we're already into our third Sunday in November. Before we know it, Christmas is going to be here, and I'm so excited. For those of you that don't know me very well, Christmas is my favorite time of the year. Well, we're going to continue in our series on relationships, and we're going to look again at Jacob's story to find out more about our relationship with God. Last week, we heard what happened when Jacob and Esau were reunited. After Jacob stole Esau's blessing and ran away from home, we learned that they were able to work things out, and we learned that God's peace can heal our relationships. This week, we're going to hear from Jacob's story again, and our big idea is God knows who we really are and wants us to know who we are as well. So let's head to our video to find out more.
Hi, I'm Elton.
And I'm Lauren. And the big idea for today is God knows who we really are and wants us to know too. That's a bit confusing though. What's your take on the big idea?
Okay, let's look at it this way. I love to play soccer, and I played a lot of soccer in high school. I have quick feet, so I thought I'm fast, so let me play up front, score the goals. But the coach put me on defense because he thought I'll be better there. He saw something in me that I didn't know I had.
That's really cool. Let's continue with our God story, where we're tracking with a guy called Jacob.
Hi everybody, it's Jen. It's great to be back here in my favorite coffee shop, and it's great to be back today with all of you. I want to share a story today about a trip I took to Boston last year with one of my good friends. We were out shopping in the streets of Boston, and I was done first, so I was kind of waiting outside for her. And there was a lot of people around, no one in particular that I knew. And so when my friend came out from shopping, she started freaking out and getting really excited, and I had no idea why. It turns out there was a very famous actor standing on the side of the road, like hailing a cab. And I had no idea who this person was, but she was really excited. She even took some pictures and got all giggly and stuff. And I just found it really funny because I didn't know who the actor was. And honestly, I still don't even remember what his name is now. But this story reminds me of today's big idea. God knows who we really are, and he wants us to know too. Today's God story is about Jacob. Do you remember Jacob? He was the grandson of Abraham, the son of Isaac. He tricked his dad into getting Esau's blessing. Then he ran away. He had a dream. He got married, had lots of kids, and he actually made peace with his brother. Remember that guy? That Jacob. Well, his story continues, and we're going to catch up with him and his family in Genesis 35. Let's see what happens next. God told Jacob to move to a place called Bethel and to build an altar there for God. Now, an altar is a place where you could bring an offering or a sacrifice to worship God. So Jacob told everyone in his household to get ready to go. This is what he said. Come, let's go up to Bethel. There I'll build an altar to honor God. He answered me when I was in trouble. He's been with me everywhere I've gone. So God kept Jacob and his family safe as they traveled. They made it to Bethel, and there they built an altar to God. So then God appeared to Jacob again and blessed him and said this. Your name is Jacob, but you will not be called Jacob anymore. Your name will be Israel. So he named him Israel. So God made known to Jacob who he really was, not just in his new name, but in directing him as he went about his life. Jacob's name turned to Israel, which would turn into the entire nation of Israel, and that's the nation that Jesus would come from. So the story continues with God talking more to Jacob. Israel. You know who I mean. So God says that because he is the mighty God, the nation of Israel will continue to increase in numbers. Kings will come from the family, and the land of Abraham and Isaac will be given to them. When God left him, Jacob, who became Israel, set up a stone pillar to show that this was a special place, a place where God spoke to him about who he really is. So back to my Boston story. As I said, my friend was super excited that this celebrity was standing on the street. You know, in hindsight, I kind of wish I knew who he really was, because it would have been awesome to get his picture and post it on Instagram and get some likes from people being excited for me that I got to meet this person. That would have been really cool. So we can see how God reminded Jacob of who he really was, and we can ask God to remind us of who we are as his well-loved kids. Well, that's it for today. Thanks again for joining me. I'll see you next time.
Sticky situation. Can you say the key verse before things get sticky? Say it with me. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. In all your ways, remember Him. Then He will make your paths smooth and straight. Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. Get ready. 3, 2, 1, go!
I don't know whether you sometimes struggle with who you are or who you're supposed to be, but I think we can tell from Jacob's story that God really wants us to know who we are.
It's very true. It's like having a hidden talent. Have you ever seen those talent shows where that random person comes up and just blows everybody away? And they themselves don't realize how great they are.
That's a great example. If we know who we really are, we can live accordingly and we can enjoy the gifts and talents that God has given us. We're going to watch a video where Marianne is going to share some of the difficulties and struggles she went through and how that led her to find the purpose of her life. Watch this.
Hola, yo soy Mariana.
My name is Mariana Monzon. I am 18 years old and I am Mexican. I guess I've always loved to draw and write little bit stories from when I was a kid. My dad and my mom's influence was definitely there. They're both creative people. They're always talking about, drawing and ink and whatever it is. So they've always taught me everything I know about art. So I felt like it just became a part of me. I love to be creative. If it's not being creative, I'm doing something with my creativity or dancing around or whatever it is. It's just something that fulfills me, being creative. I really did like my life in Mexico, and then when we moved in Canada, it was very different. I felt different from everybody else. I just looked around, and as much as I tried to communicate, even they didn't speak my language. Not just in Spanish, but also just the way I am. I couldn't communicate. I was just too different, and I never understood why. Trying to make friends was the hardest thing, especially because everybody already knew each other from SK and JK, so there was already cliques. A group of people that have similar interests but don't let other people come in, so they're very exclusive. And that's a lot of the people that were in my school were. So I kind of grew up with this group of people, but I never felt truly accepted or felt like I could become friends with one of them. And so I went through a lot of just betrayals or just a lot of backstabbing and people talking behind my back or whatever it was. It was not the best experience. So in grade 8, I had a clique of my own because I was very similar with certain people, and I thought it was the best time. I was finally fitting in. I was very happy, and I got great friends. But then I realized that they were just not like me. I decided to, instead of changing myself and becoming someone that I'm not, I'm just going to distance myself from everyone. And that was the hardest part. Because of this decision I made, I spent most of my grade 8 year alone. So grade 9 turned out to be a total different experience. I felt accepted, I was part of a group, and I finally felt happy to go to school again. However, 3 months in, I realized that my body was having some difficulties, and 4 days before Christmas, I found out I had cancer.
¿Cómo se siente la cosa?
So the next 2 weeks were just filled with intense chemotherapy because I had to get rid of my cancer, in which I was declared cancer-free after 2 weeks, but I had to do 3 years worth of treatment because of my leukemia, and for me that was a really tough time. But it was also one of my life-changing moments. It's where I really found God, and I really found my purpose for my life. Having struggled so much through grade 8 and then having to pass through a next trial, which is cancer, I think God was just prepping me for a hard world so I can face it with such positive attitude, and I think
Maybe it could have destroyed my life, and I could have died. But in the end, like, God used that for me and for others, so I can able to inspire and to, I guess, grow with Him and grow with other people.
through it all, I have seen that God truly loves me.
It has brought me to meet really inspiring people, and I was able to make incredible memories that I don't think I would have had if I had been in a normal lifestyle. So I think this abnormal and extraordinary thing that has happened in my life, I don't take it for granted at all. I take it like as, I don't know, it's become so part of my life, and I don't see myself ever not having gone through it. I would have been a total different person. I wouldn't have been the person I am today.
Wow. What do you say after watching that video?
There are no words. Mariana is incredible. She found herself in God, and when she went through the worst things you can think of, God showed her who she really was.
And now that she knows who she really is, she can encourage and inspire others. And that's what she's actually doing.
It's really great. It's small group time now. Let's get together and discuss this further.
This week in our story, Jacob and his family moved to a new place called Bethel. While Jacob and his family traveled, God kept them all safe. And when they arrived, Jacob built a special altar or pillar to honor God and to thank him. While he was there, Jacob was also given a new name by God. He was to be called Israel. Eventually, Jacob's family would become the great nation of Israel. And this is the same line that Jesus would come from. God also told Jacob that Israel would be a great nation and many kings would come from it. God reminded Jacob who he really was, and we can also ask God to do the same for us. It's important for us to remember that we are God's well-loved children. Anytime that you're not sure who you are, you can know that God knows who we really are, and he wants us to know who we are too. So take some time and ask him, and always remember that we are God's loved and chosen children. He is always going to be with us. Well, it's almost time for our regular service to get started here. I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you all next Sunday.